Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Wednesday. NBA teams inching closer and closer to the playoffs. Some of the battles in the standings coming a little bit more into focus, and we've got a lot of news, some injury news, unfortunately, as well today. But make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. If you're over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, follow us there. Give us that 5-star rating and review. Joining me, as always, is Keith Smith. Keith, man, I always have to keep in mind that this time of year, like a stub toe is technically a season ender because we're so close to the end of the season. But I'm tired of seeing season-ending injury for player X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for the teams that have nothing to play for.
Yeah.
They're not going to bring guys back. If it's even at this point, if it's a 2-week injury, you're probably not bringing the guy back. It's just, all right, let's call it and be done. So yeah, it's that part is definitely a bummer, but tis the season, I guess, for season-ending injuries.
Yeah, it is indeed, and I guess that's where we'll start here. Trey Murphy is out for the season, shoulder issues, torn labrum for Trey Murphy. I mean, this is the Pelicans season has been completely cursed. They have not been able to get or stay healthy. I mean, I guess the silver lining, they should get a nice draft pick, regardless of where that falls. And then Zion Williamson has actually looked really good since coming back from injury. So those are kind of the silver linings. But otherwise, man, this team has been absolutely cursed all season long. And now Trey Murphy just gets added to the list of insane injuries that have hit the Pels.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you've had Zion playing a lot at the 3 since he came back. They've been playing double bigs with him and Murphy both sliding down in position. And yeah, it just thinks. And what you worry about with Murphy is, this is hopefully it's March. Next time we'll play a meaningful game is, let's call it 6 months from now. A little bit more than that. So you're in a spot where it'll be, all right, let's hope he's okay by then, right? Because the torn labrum, that's huge for obviously a guy who's a shooter and somebody who's taking on a lot of ball handling and playmaking reps. So, it's not, it really changes nothing about this season for the Pelicans. No. If anything, it probably helps the lottery odds a little bit because less chance to win games without him in the lineup. But you never want to see anybody go down, especially with like serious injury like this.
Yeah, not something that you ever want to see. And again, just given how bad it's been for the Pelicans, I mean, my God, they're barely on the screen there.
Yeah,
all the way down. And this is a team that on paper should be in the mix. They should be, I mean, not necessarily a contender, but should be a playoff-ish team at least. And I mean, 18 wins on the season, absolutely brutal. They've lost their last 3, and they are going to limp to the finish line. And just no more injuries, please, for the Pels, because my goodness, or just anybody. But just stay healthy. Turn off injuries for the remainder of the season, please.
100%. Yeah, and then I think with the Pelicans, it's probably going to be pretty ugly the rest of the way. They've already been kind of spotting Zion here and there. He gets days off here and there. They'll probably continue. I'd be surprised if he gets shut down with a week or 2 to go in the season as well.
Yeah, might as well. Should the Pelicans consider trading Zion this summer? There was a little bit of talk about that at the trade deadline.
Yeah, it's funny. I've seen some people say, hey, if they get the first pick and they get Cooper Flag,
right,
can the two of them even play together? The answer is yes, they can. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's you shut it down if teams call, but I don't know that you're calling all around the league, offering them up either. I think you're probably more, hey, if someone makes a call and they make an interesting offer, you have the discussion. Otherwise, you probably move forward with the idea of, all right, we got Zion, DeJounte Murray eventually at some point comes back into the mix, and then we've got Herb Jones, Murphy back. I think you feel pretty good about that core going forward. But yeah, I think you at least listen if someone calls. I don't know that you're shopping them yourself.
The challenge is every time you see Zion on the floor, you can't help but think, oh my God, never trade this guy. This guy's awesome. But then he's on the floor so infrequently, and you have to try to remember that. Then when he goes through these stretches, it's always feels like it's only a matter of time before the next injury. But hopefully he's at the lightest he's been that we've seen in his NBA career. Hopefully that makes a difference and can finally get Zion to be on the floor and stay on the floor. Speaking of guys that have some injury issues, Domantas Sabonis is going to be out with an ankle sprain. Obviously, it's a big deal for the Kings, but the good news is this is not a season ender. We're probably looking at like a week, 10 days, something like that. May still matter in the standings, but you're looking at things right now. The Kings, they're kind of nestled into that 9 spot. Like, I don't think they catch, especially now the Clippers have won 4 in a row. I don't think they catch the Clippers. I also don't think they necessarily have to worry about being caught from behind by the Dallas Mavericks either.
Yeah, and I don't think it's if things really went sideways. I don't think like the Suns push past them and the Mavs and they fall out entirely. No. Yeah, I think they're. I think you got it. They're right there in that 9 spot, which means Sabonis get healthy. I think they'll take the puncher's chance of the trying to win the first game, then win the second game on the road if they need to try to get into the playoffs. I don't know how they feel one way or the other about that. If they're a lottery team, they keep their pick. If they're not, it goes to Atlanta, I believe is the correct way that plays out there. So they definitely get some stuff at play there. All right, if they're top 12, they keep their picks. So we'll see. Maybe that's not going to happen now. I'm at this point. So yeah, maybe they're a little more resigned, but yeah, you're not going to push him to play till he's ready. You're certainly not going anywhere without him. But yeah, you just kind of do what you can and win while you can, and then see where things go in the play-in.
When I look at the Kings, I think, okay, whoever is their intent at 10, I think the Kings can survive that. I don't think they get past either Minnesota or the Clippers, though.
No, I don't think so.
To get actually make the playoffs proper.
Or even if it's the Warriors, if they stumble back in there, I don't think they're beating any of those teams. They certainly could, because you're talking it's only one game, right? You only need to win one that way. But yeah, I would favor any one of those teams over them. I think the top 8 in the West is what order? Who knows what the order will be after the Thunder. But I think that's probably going to be your 8 playoff teams.
Yeah, agreed. All right.
One last thing on that.
Yeah.
If you're the Thunder, man, you're like, cool. Now we get Kawhi and Harden and the Clippers. Like, that's not the easy walkover that you should get as the 1 seed. They should be favored, but you're challenged. And then if things went to form, Lakers in the second round, like, you got to be like, man, we were the best team in the league. Why? Like, what was the, reasoning here? I mean, clearly you can't control the matchups, beyond that slight amount, but yeah, that's tough.
Well, that's the thing in the West. Like, it's so close in these races that it's going to be really tough unless we get some real clarity in the final week of the season or something. It's going to be real tough for teams to kind of manipulate their landing spots here. All you can do is just kind of win the games that you can win and hope to stay healthy. And then I think, kind of like what we've seen in the West the last few years, matchups are going to determine a lot. Because there is so much parity in the Western Conference. Matchups will determine a lot here. And you're right, for the Thunder, the best case I think for OKC would be somehow like Sacramento winds up in the 8 seed or something, and then maybe they have a pretty easy time in the first round. But I mean, there's scenarios where they could be playing Denver in round 2 like that. Like, you just never know in the Western Conference. They could get the Lakers in round 2. It could be Golden State, who have been red hot with the exception of a couple of games ago. You could be playing them. And I think really, especially for sure, once you get into round 2, there are no easy games in the West at that point. And for most teams, there will be no easy games even in round 1, perhaps even for the Thunder, who should have really an easier game in round 1 or easier series, I should say.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about the Kings, the Warriors, and the roster minimum starting to get to be a little bit of a crunch here. So what's going on here, Keith?
Yeah, so the Kings, basically since the trade deadline, have been operating with 13 or 14 guys on their standard contracts. Everybody needs to be at 14. You can only be under 14 for up to 14 days at a time and 28 total days. It's that second one that they were nudging up against. It's that 28 total days, because they also went with less guys earlier this season as well. They've signed Terry Taylor out of their G League to come in. He's going to be back with them. He went to camp with them. So he'll be on the team for the remainder or for a 10-day contract, rather. Then we'll see. They're going to have to do something because, like I said, they're about out of their 28 days that they can drop under 14 players. The Warriors are in a similar spot. Now, they had Kevin Knox on a pair of 10 days. They've had other guys up on 10 days. We'll see where they go, but they're by the end of the week, they're going to have to do something again. You can play it out with 10 day, followed by 10 day, followed by 10 day, if you want to. And then with the Warriors and Kings both too, look for them before the end of the year, less so with the Warrior or with the Kings. They could do it really at any time because they're well clear of the tax. But the Warriors being the tax team, they're probably going to want to play with this a little bit, but they'll probably fill out 15 total players before the end of the year. That'll either be through G League conversions right at the end of the season, or they may do it with call-ups for guys, but just something we wanted to know because they're clearly dancing around those 28 days that you can be under 14 players on the roster.
Yeah, and that'll be something that teams will have to maneuver around here as we get closer and closer to the end of the season. It's funny seeing there's a number of teams that are trying to kind of get around some of these restrictions, requirements, things of that nature. My Lakers are dealing with some issues in terms of their two-way contracts. They're running up against the limit for two-way players to play. You've got the Dallas Mavericks. We talked about whether or not they would have 8 players available to play in an NBA game, what that might look like. That's this time of year where you start to run into some of these limitations and things like that. So we'll see how teams maneuver around all of this. But again, kind of an interesting subplot for the end of the season.
Yeah, let's talk the Lakers briefly because I know the question's going to get asked in the comments on the show. The Lakers are clear enough under the hard cap. They could sign 2 guys. The issue is what you don't want to do is you're not going to do it until you have to, because you don't want to be in any kind of position where, let's say, like it was a couple weeks ago where they had like 4 guys out all at once. You'd rather have those guys available because you can no longer replace guys like Jordan Goodwin or Trey Jemison on 2-way contracts because the deadline for that was the beginning of the month. So what happens is if you pull those 2 guys over there, and the reason I'm using them is that's the most likely way. The Lakers would probably fill 2 spots, but that also means waiving 2 players too, if they were going to go that direction. And that's a whole other conversation. And I know it seems super simple to say waive Alex Len and Cam Reddish. They're barely playing. They haven't been really a part of things, but they're there. They're Alex Len. They flipped him from going to the Pacers to coming to them. So there is a little bit more that goes into that. You want to make sure you maintain relationships moving forward with not only the players, but agents and everybody else. And you just want to handle things the right way. So I think it's very likely Jordan Goodwin gets converted before the end of the year.
Yes.
Now, once he's out of 2-way games or NBA games on his 2-way contract, you might as well do it because at that point you're getting nothing out of him anyway.
Right.
So you might as well do it then, and then you can just play him as much as you want to. Considering he's been starting quite a bit lately, I would say very good chance you're going to see him get converted. I'm a little less certain on Jemison. I think that comes down to, is he going to give us more than Alex Len is in a playoff series? If you think he is, you probably convert him. If not, they've got him on a 2-year 2-way. So they've got him already in the fold for next year. So you're not even worried about losing him or anything like that. So those are the things that are going on with the Lakers. It's, again, seems super simple to say just waive, player X and player Y and move in, players A and B, but that's generally not really how it works.
Yeah, no, I've been saying that since we moved past the point of, being able to sign someone else to a 2-way contract, whoever you waived being playoff eligible with their team, since those days have passed in early March, it makes no sense for the Lakers to bump anybody up right now to give them a standard contract until they've run out of that 2-way eligibility, which Jordan Goodwin reportedly has 5 games remaining of 2-way eligibility. And then Trey Jemison, I want to say it was like 7 games, maybe 8, something like that.
Yeah,
that
which should be plenty.
Off top of my head. Yeah. So that's what they're looking at here. Now, again, Jemison is on a 2-year 2-way contract. Goodwin, I can't even imagine, Keith, even if, like, let's say you wanted to save as much money as possible. What you might do with Jordan Goodwin is let the 5 games expire, play him the 5 games. Then you have 9-10 games remaining on the season. You sit him for those 9 games or whatever, and then you sign him to that standard contract right before the playoffs start. If he's like your 15th guy, maybe you're doing that, but he's starting for you right now. Even when they're healthy and he's coming off the bench, he's still playing a significant role. They're not going to want to play out the final couple of weeks of the season without the ability to put Goodwin into the game. So I think as soon as the 5 games expired, as soon as he runs out of games, they will bump him up to a standard contract, which is going to mean waiving somebody. Just who that is, we don't know yet.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. If you're starting for a team that's in the middle of a playoff race at the end of March, there's a pretty good chance either that team's in really, really rough shape or you're part of the plans. And I think in Goodwin's case, it's clearly the latter there. And now we were asked this too, was people were like, can they give him one of those 4-year, like $10 million deals like we saw a whole bunch of other people get? They can't, because in order to do that, you have to have an exception that allows for a contract that long. My guess is they'd like to get Goodwin for the rest of this year and then something on the books for next year, whether it be a team option or a non-guarantee or partial guarantee. So that's probably what it'll look like, is a 2-year deal via the minimum exception for Jordan Goodwin. Probably be a similar type thing for Jemison if they converted him as well. Not that we're leaving Christian Coloco out of this purposely, but it just much further down the pecking order, I think, than Goodwin or Jemison. So, but that's the next question that's come up quite a bit, is how long can they sign guys for? And it's a much shorter deal.
Yeah. So you mentioned, so Goodwin, they'd probably be looking at a 2-year deal then. Wouldn't be able to do like that 3 or 4-year deal.
Yeah.
As far as Coloco goes, yeah, I mean, he's ahead of Alex Len. I could tell you that he's ahead of Alex Len, but he does seem to be clearly behind Trey Jemison right now. Both still fairly young players, 24, 25 years old for Jemison and Coloco, but Coloco does appear to be behind Jemison currently. Jemison has just been out the last week plus now due to an illness, which I mean, Keith, your Celtics know about that and how illness can knock a player out for a long period of time. So hopefully he starts feeling better. I know he's questionable for tonight against the Nuggets.
And if you're the Lakers too, it's probably not the worst thing, because that conserves some of those 2-way days for you, in a sense there. Let's just say this, it would be extremely unprecedented. Not even extreme, it would be totally unprecedented for a team to convert all 3 2-way guys at the end of the season and waive 3, veteran players. They're not going to do all 3 of them. Goodwin, I would say, is a lock. Jemison, I'm more 50-50 on. Coloco, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I agree. I don't think so either. All right, let's go here. This is kind of Lakers adjacent as well. I talked about this a little bit on the basketball bulletin, but the Hornets are reportedly, according to a report from Mark Stein, rival executives believe the Hornets are going to look to trade Mark Williams again. I've already had people say, well, but this is rivalry. This is not the Hornets. Well, yeah, the Hornets would never put this out there. Even this could be 100% the plan. The Hornets could be going into the summer saying, no matter what, we must trade Mark Williams. They could be carrying it around on a Post-it note in their pocket, like Vontae Mack, no matter what. And the Hornets will make sure they say the exact opposite of this to anybody who will listen. So just the fact that it's coming from rival executives, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not true of the Hornets. But it is interesting. The Hornets to look at trading Mark Williams again for a team that was so enthusiastic about getting Mark Williams back and then pushed back against the whole narrative that he had, that he failed his physical, or pushed back against the legitimacy of the failed physical. Why then would he be right back on the trade block? And our team's going to be wary of this, considering he did fail that physical with the Lakers.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty big difference between a player's been in trade rumors and a player was actually traded, because if you did it once, you'd probably do it again. And that's where I assume most of this is coming from, where it is, yeah, let's move this guy if we need to. I'm going to go a little step further with the Hornets. I think outside of Brandon Miller, I think pretty much anybody's on the table.
Sure.
Not that Miller's untouchable, but he's your young guy. He's kind of one of the guys you're building around. I'll even say LaMelo Ball. I'm not even certain that they're 100% locked in on he's off the table, untouchable. I think it would take a lot to get him. And I think it would have to be the really right offer. And then I think certainly anybody else on the roster, they'd be open to talking about. But with Williams, $6.3 million next year, he's extension eligible. If you're not going to entertain extending him on a rookie scale extension, you probably want to start talking about trading him. And if I'm another team, I'd rather have him so then I have that ability, right? Then I can say, yeah, I want to do, my type of extension with him or whatever. So, but I just think Charlotte's very much in flux here. And I think it's going to be, hey, we're open to all kinds of things moving forward. And we're open to trading just about anybody on the roster.
Yeah. And that's kind of where the Hornets have to be right now, given where they're at, in their rebuild process. And I don't want to get too, Lakers heavy here or anything like that, but like if the Hornets really thought Mark Williams is our center of the future, then they're not really looking to trade him like this, right? They wouldn't be considering trades. So again, I wonder how much teams are going to approach this with skepticism, or they're going to be cautious. And is that perhaps why the Hornets pushed back so strongly, because they knew there's a decent chance they are going to trade him again? We'll see. Again, it would be really interesting to see what happens. Let's say he gets traded. I don't know, pick a random team. Let's say he gets traded to the Nets for whatever reason. I don't know, whatever team. What happens when he takes that team's physical? That will be really intriguing. If he does get traded again, what happens on the next physical? Does he pass? And then everybody turns and looks at the Lakers and says, what the hell? Does he fail it? And then everybody says, okay, what is really going on here? Like, that will be, I think, absolutely fascinating if and when he gets traded.
Yeah, I think if you're the Hornets, what you can kind of use as your cover a little bit is, hey, we got this really great offer. Yeah. Which it was a really great offer. It was essentially, first, a swap, and a young player. Yeah, that was pretty good, right? I mean, I remember when we were reacting to it pre-rescission, and is that even a word? But pre-rescinded trade, and we were reacting to it. We were like, the Lakers, this is a heavy price, for this guy. And that's where you're like, we got a really great offer. Like, they made us an offer we couldn't refuse, to go all Godfather on you there. But like, it becomes like, now where do we go? Right? Like, if you're not going to get an offer that good, because now teams are going to be like, the Lakers found something, like, we're not certainly giving up, quite as much. It's not like he's been fine since he returned to Charlotte, but it's not like he came back and was like 30-20 games every night and dominating the league and everything. So yeah, you got to be careful here. But yeah, again, I think it's just, if you're Charlotte, pretty much anything should be on the table, because there's nothing here where you're looking at. I mean, look at what you have up on the screen. Is there anyone on there that you're like, man, I am so incredibly fired up to build my team around that player? Like, and that'll even include Miller and Ball. Yeah, Nurkic. Yeah,
Nurkic.
Well, I'm sure the Lakers could trade for him next summer if they want.
I'm sure.
Somehow I don't think it's going to cost you a first to swap and Dalton Connect either.
It should not.
But yeah, I mean, I like Brandon Miller. LaMelo Ball is fine, but there's nothing there that you're like, holy cow, this is it, right? Like you're just you should be open to just about anything.
Do the Hornets? We saw what the Mavs did with Luka, and obviously the general perception is that they made a mistake, right? That's the general, just around the NBA. I'm not trying to throw in like a Lakers angle or anything like that, but just around the NBA, most people would say the Mavs made a mistake with that trade.
Everybody but Nico Harrison. So, yeah.
Right, everybody but Nico Harrison. But part of the reason why they did it is they didn't want to have to give Luka that supermax extension. And so they were trying to, according to Nico Harrison, they were trying to get ahead of things, right, before getting into an uncomfortable summer. Could we be at the same place with LaMelo Ball with the Hornets, given that he's extension eligible the next year, where the Hornets say, hey, we want to try to get ahead of this. If we don't think he's the guy for us long term, we know he's got that extension eligibility coming up the following summer. Do we just potentially shop him a little bit? Is that going to be potentially the new wave of teams being a little bit more strict with who they're willing to give a supermax to and who they're not? And could that put a player like LaMelo Ball out there on the market?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things to unpack there, because it's a really good scenario. One is Luka had that player option on the last year, so that almost makes it like 1 year earlier that all this needs to be decided upon. Where LaMelo, yeah, it is the summer of 2026, but he would still have 3 full years under contract. So I think you feel a little bit less pressure on that one. I think there's obviously, it's not quite as clear. Like Luka, you couldn't not give him the super max. Like there was
Right.
no way you were going to be able to convince him to take anything but that. So I think there you have to be a little more like, all right, let's be a little more reasonable on this one. But I think your bigger point of, I do think teams are going to be, especially when it's that second max deal,
Yeah.
teams are going to be a lot more stringent on who gets this, who doesn't. Do we go all the way to the 35% language if it's in there? Do we go there? Where are we going to go? Because Luka, that's one story like that. Let's look at Paul George. Last year, the Clippers were line in the sand. Said, we're not maxing him out. We're not going, full 5 years with, full max. Like, we're just not going to do it. It was going to be years or dollars, and, it was going to be one or the other. And that's where those are the things I think you are going to see some teams be a lot more conservative on versus just, all right, the guy's an all NBA guy every year, just hand him the max, especially if there's any kind of questions of injury, age, or performance slippage. I think you're going to be very, very careful with that.
And that's the new CBA at work there, where teams now have to be more careful with that sort of thing. All right. Well, Keith,
we missed one.
Did we? Did I? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Apologies. I'm doing Corey Kispert like Matt Damon here. Sorry, Corey Kispert. It was a Jimmy Kimmel bit for a while there. Corey Kispert out for the season. Apologies, Corey Kispert. I was so tired of talking about injuries, Keith, that I skipped over it. Corey Kispert, indeed, out for the season. Doesn't we'll hopefully he's back and healthy next season, but
it's a left thumb injury for Kispert. He was having a lot of trouble handling the ball, whether it be dribbling, passing, just holding on to it with the injury. So he's going to get the surgery. Should be full go for next year. Corey Kispert's turned into a really nice player.
Mm-hmm.
Really, put together a nice run with Washington. I think he's a lot better than a lot of people realize because the Wizards haven't been much to write home about over the last couple years. So, yeah, right. It's starting to play a little bit better, man. Alex Sarr, everybody who sold on the kid, like this is why we give rookies a pretty long leash because he's playing a lot better. But anyway,
they're 5-5 in their last 10, and Wizards fans are saying why now?
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, why are we passing Utah and other teams in the standings?
Right.
But yeah, so again, not really going to change much for the fortunes of the Wizards, but wanted to mention it just because it is another guy who's going to be out for the rest of the season. But again, like we said at the top of the show, a lot of these are going to be anybody who gets nicked up now. If the team has nothing to play for, more and more and more of these are going to be players out for the year.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. All right, everybody.
Let me finish with one other thing.
Forgot something else. Okay.
No, it wasn't on our show rundown, but I'm just going to throw it in here at the tail end. The bracket challenge is out there. We're at almost 100 entries, which is really cool. So go ahead, sign up. It's unlimited. You can only put one entry in at a time, but the entries do lock. The thing locks at tomorrow for the first game in the main field of the tournament, 12:15 Eastern tomorrow. When let me tell you who it is. Louisville and Creighton are the first game. Thursday 20th, 12:15 Eastern. It will lock. Then you won't be able to join after that. Winner gets we'll figure it out and get you on the show. You come on, talk about your team or whatever it is you want to talk about. Or if you can't or don't want to be on the show or whatever, you can send the priority questions or comments or whatever it is. We'll make sure we get those read off on a future show. But we're going to have some fun watching the tournament. So tournament in full starts tomorrow. So I'm super excited. Right. Over on the basketball bulletin, I put in my top 50 guys on my personal draft board that are in the tournament. I put that out there yesterday. So anybody who's interested in really scouting the tournament for NBA reasons, you can find my top 50 prospects in order, 1 through 50 of players who were playing in the tournament. And then pinned on Blue Sky, I have my viewing guide, which just tells you who's playing and when they're playing and all that stuff. That top 50, which Trevor has now pulled up on the screen, that's free and unlocked for everybody to read.
Yep. So go check that out. And the viewing guide, I've got the tab still open. Oh, I'm leaving it open because it is legit. It is.
You can see I updated it after yesterday. So
and we'll tell you everything that you need to know. So make sure you guys check that out. as well.
Yep, Trey Johnson tonight. That's the kid to keep an eye on tonight for Texas. Probably going to be a top 5 to 8 pick in the draft. You'll
Let's
like
go.
him, Trevor.
Mhm.
Bigger, I think Cam Johnson, Jordan Clarkson type. Little bit more size. A little bit better of a ball handler and passer. Really good scorer. I like him because he's super audacious. Like he will take big shots and then he'll let you know when he makes them too. So he's a lot of fun to watch.
Love it. All right. I can't wait for that one. Everybody, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.